Have you ever felt like the parent of your parent? Have you ever felt like your feelings are not as important as those around you? And more importantly, have you ever felt like you don't know how to express your feelings, or even worse, what you're feeling? Stay tuned so I can show you how all these feelings may actually stem back from all the way back to your childhood and the signs of emotionally abusive parents. But most importantly, stick with me to the end of this video so I can show you how these signs affect future relationships of any kind. Welcome back, folks, and hello to my channel newbies. If you are new to my channel, don't forget to introduce yourself in the comment section below. My name is Olympia. I have a degree in cognitive neuroscience, and I am here to give you guys some perspective and the harsh truth on the big and little questions in life. So make sure to smash that subscribe button and ring that bell so you guys get notified when I make new videos every Thursday. Once again, let's dissect that pretty little brain of yours and see what makes it tick, but also what makes you talk. Let's start. Now, emotional abuse, like any type of abuse, is all about control. These people crave control. They want to control their surroundings, their feelings, and by extension, your feelings and your surroundings. Now, emotional control is very difficult to pinpoint, as I've said in my other videos, because it is not something that you have a physical manifestation of. There's no bruise, there's no scar, it's all in here. But basically, the underlying motive of emotional abuse is to isolate, discredit, and lower the self-esteem of the person being abused. So, harsh truth time. My channel is all about harsh truth. Harsh truth time. Parents, you are not perfect. Your kids will never be perfect. And honestly, perfect is boring. You see, humanity is all about evolution. It is about becoming stronger, better, wiser. So if you're perfect, there's no room for improvement. It is these imperfections that break us, but also make us the people we are today. So before I continue and take you through the signs of emotionally abusive parents, whether you are the parent or the child, I want to emphasize this. Parents, take this as a checklist and not as blame. Take this as room of improvement, that you are nipping the problem in the bud, identifying it before you make the damage. And children of emotionally abusive parents, adult childs, take this list as a way to identify your past if you've been emotionally abused. Also, just like your parents, ways for improvement. But most importantly, if you want to live your own life, it is up to you to break the emotional abuse cycle. Chances are your parents were emotionally abused too. So instead of blaming it on them, use this list that I'm about to give you, these signs that I'm about to give you, as a way to break that cycle, not bring this into your future relationships, and most importantly, not pass it on to your children. So let's start. Sign number 1. You have difficulty forming healthy relationships. Now, fortunately, unfortunately, the relationship you have with your parent is the first relationship you'll have. It is what you learn, what you grow, what you bring into your next relationships. So, if you have emotionally abusive parents and whatever the tactics they use, manipulation, guilt trips, passive aggressiveness, chances are that you are going to bring those traits into your future relationships. Sign number 2. What I like to call the blame game. One of the signs of emotional abuse, any kind, any relationship, is that the abuser will never take the blame. They will do what we call blame shifting and put it on someone else's. Now, when it comes to parents who are emotionally abusive, the easiest person to pin the emotional abuse on, or the behavior or what they've done wrong, is, the other parent. So you kind of get this bad cop, good cop kind of relationship. Now, the problem with this is, aside from you developing a negative opinion of the other parent, is that you can actually become codependent on the parent that is emotionally abusing you. And codependency, which I'll be making other videos on, is something that is very hard to break, and it is very easy to bring into other types of relationships, especially romantic relationships. So my video question today to you, and leave your answers in the comments below, is did one of your parents ever make you feel like your other parent was the bad guy? Did you have like a bad cop, good cop kind of situation going on in your family? Let me know in the comments below. Sign number 3, the comparison. Now, funny enough, emotionally abusing parents are not always emotionally abusing all their children. Sometimes they can pick one. And it is not, I honestly believe that this is not done consciously, it's done subconsciously, meaning that they don't realize it, because all parents want what's best for their children. But the worst thing you can do is the comparison game. Basically comparing one of your children to your other children. So comparing them to their sibling. This can be done for a variety of reasons. One reason could be that the sibling, the one that does no wrong, is fulfilling some unfulfilled wish, desire of that parent. So for example, if that parent wanted to be a doctor but didn't have the time, didn't have the money, and now their child is being a doctor, the other child, the not doing enough child, can always be compared to that other sibling, the doctor sibling. So it's the classic, why can't you be more like your brother? What does this logically lead to? The child becomes an insatiable people pleaser, and their whole identity is formed by the comparisons done around them. So you're kind of stripping the child of their uniqueness and their potential and their motivation, because whoever they are, whatever they are, they're being constantly compared to someone else. And this could be, and obviously this transcends to future relationships and even career relationships, because the person will always be comparing themselves and what they're doing to others out there. Now again, harsh truth time. There will always be someone better out there at what you're doing, or will be more ahead of you. There are life coaches, YouTubers, vloggers, people that are light years ahead of where I want to be. But this one quote, stay with me, remember this. Don't compare your chapter 1 of your book to someone else's chapter 20. Because each of us are on a different journey, have a different story, and since when did plagiarism become acceptable? So if this child is being constantly compared to a sibling or someone else, they will obviously transcend that to future relationships and start comparing themselves to everyone else out there. And that could lead to the compare and despair effect. Check out my video above if you want to learn more. I will link it below. But point being is that it will just lead to a lack of motivation, affect career choices, affect future relationships. So stop comparing. Sign 4. For me, the most important sign. No matter no matter what emotional abuse you're going under, this effect for me is the most crucial. Repressing your emotions. Now, like I said, your relationship with your parents is the first relationship you will have in life. And repressing your emotions is a coping mechanism. Now, the child does that to preserve his psychology, her psychology. But the problem is if they develop this at a very early age, you end up not only skipping the step where you express your emotions and therefore see how other people will respond to certain emotions, but you also skip the step of trying to identifying those emotions, understanding what you feel. If you're suppressing anger, jealousy, happiness, or whatever, because you are afraid that your parent, your emotionally abusive parent, will react negatively, then as you go through life, suddenly when a person's asking you, so how do you feel? And literally your mind is like, knock knock, who's there? I have no freaking clue. Sign number 5, the infamous guilt trip. Now, as I've said in my previous videos on emotional abuse and manipulation, the guilt trip is a classic technique. But with parents, it gets even more tricky because there are 2 types of guilt trips. Type 1, the parent will make the child feel guilty of the relationship with the other parent. So a simple example is, oh, that's nice that you and your father went to the park today. We never go to the park. And then, bam, the child suddenly feels guilty because they are because they feel like they've neglected the other parent and spent some more quality or did something different with, let's say, their father. Guilt trip number 2, and this is the most sick one. The emotionally abusive parent will compare their relationship, the relationship with the child and, let's say, the mother, with the relationship of the mother and the father, their spousal relationship. Now let me explain this, because I got really confused when I tried to decipher this in my brain. So another example, and I'm going to use dad here again just for consistency. Another example is, oh, it's nice that your dad bought you a new handbag. He's never bought me a new handbag. And then, bam, again, the child will literally feel guilty because they believe that they've created a rift or that they have affected in a negative way the relationship between their mother and their father. Now, I want to emphasize this. If there's anything you take out of this video, I want to emphasize this point. The relationship, the individual relationship that you have with your father, with your mother, with your parents, whatever it is, has nothing to do and should never have anything to do with the relationship between your parents, between your mother and father or your two parents. What happens between them is not on you. And this type of emotional abuse can affect severely future relationship, especially romantic relationship, which is, it's sick. I mean, having your parents' relationships affect your romantic relationships. Now, like I said, emotionally abusive parents out there, if you're listening, take this as a checklist, take this as room for improvement and not as shame and guilt and blame. No one, like I said, no one is perfect. And children of emotionally abusive parents, do not blame your parents. This is your battle right now. This is your time to identify that problem and fix it and take credibility and take action of your own life and how it's going to affect your future relationships. And like I said, also how it's going to affect your relationship if you ever have children. Now, make sure to check out my other videos on emotional abuse and manipulation. Remember, subscribe to that channel, smash that button, make mama other than love me by giving me a huge thumbs up, ringing that bell so you guys see when I make weekly videos every Thursday. And that's it, folks.